to Players in Exile. My name is Phil, and I'd like to talk to you about the Warhammer Online preview that was held last weekend, and in specific, the new Warhammer Quest box set, Cursed City. You may have seen some of the earlier previews leading up to this, but this was the big reveal. It had the box art, it had the contents, and I thought it'd be a good idea to go through them all, give you my thoughts, tell you what I think. Maybe have a guess at what I think it'll cost, and sum it all up with whether I think I'm going to get it or not. So here we are, Warhammer Quest Cursed City, heroic quests in the doomed city of Ulfenkarn. It's a good-looking box art. It's very evocative. You've got your heroes on the front, but in the background you've got your BBEG, your big bad end of game boss. There's not really much more to say about the box art, but what's really cool is what they showed next. They showed the game in all its finery. Now, my first thoughts when I saw this was this really does look like a reskin of Blackstone Fortress, but that's not a bad thing. I think they did a lot of work on Blackstone Fortress. I think Blackstone Fortress was a great game. There's real obvious telltale signs here. Down here at the bottom, on the right hand side, you've got your character cards, and on there you've got your action dice. That's all straight out of Blackstone Fortress. You've got your black dice, which you can steal and use to do extra actions. You've got cards for playing with, although looking at this, you seem to have quite a few less cards than the ones that Blackstone Fortress. That's an interesting point. You've got your action dice, your combat dice rather, so different attacks on different characters will have different dice rolls. They could have 2 of the blue ones, which are 2d8s. They can have 1 or 2 of the red ones. For example, if they're really powerful, I mean, they would have to be really powerful to get 2 red ones. These are custom dice, as you can see. They have blanks, 1 dots or 2 dots on them, and that denotes how well you do in combat against your opponent. On the right here, this is your initiative tracker. You can see that there are different cards along the initiative tracker, and they're basically randomized and dealt out. So you've got monster, 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 player, monster, player, player, monster. So it doesn't look like the players are going to do particularly well there because there's 3 monsters that go before them. You've got your board, which in Blackstone Fortress is made up from maps that you randomly deal out, depending on the encounter type. And then you make the board, and then you randomly deal out the opponents you're going to be dealing with, and then the encounter usually determines where they start. I don't think this is this might be an actual map layout, but this is certainly not the layout of monsters. There's too many of them. This is just an example. But what this does show you is just how many models you get in the game. And speaking of which, I think that's what we should do next. Let's go and have a look at the heroes in the game, and then we'll have a look at the villains of the game. So the first hero we've got to look at is Cleona Zietengale. She looks like a kind of healer to me, although she is carrying a bunch of metal stakes for killing vampires, so she doesn't look like she is incapable of defending herself. But I suspect she is a support class. I think she's not going to be very offensive, but particularly good at buffing maybe, and healing and those sorts of things. She's got lots of mixed sort of feels about her. I think she's kind of loosely based on the new elves we've got coming out. But I'm not entirely sure. She could kind of be Stormcast for all I know. It's very hard to tell. Next up is one of my favourites. This is Dagnai Holden stock. It's very steampunk-esque dwarf. He's got what appears to be a steam-powered harpoon. Huge steam regulator on his back there. He's even got a sort of a steam-powered respirator, although I note it's not covering his nose. Very topical, I know. He's got an axe. Don't think that's steam-powered, but there's something in the hilt there. But so I think it's just a normal axe in his own hand. The interesting thing about this is when you think about it, if he's got a huge harpoon, is his job to drag the opponents towards you so that you can better chop them up? That's what I think his job will be. It will actually be to target particular enemies and drag them towards the party so the party can deal with them more quickly before the other enemies get into combat. That's my gut feeling of him. He's going to be tough. He'll probably be able to dish out some damage, but I think he's got like a specialist role, if you like, in the game. Qualthus, the Exile, stunning looking elf she is. She's got this beautifully horn curved bow, or antler curved bow, if you like, the same as the antlers on her. I think that's on a headpiece. I don't think they're actually hers. Obviously, her hair's flowing. She's a very dynamic pose. We already know this is a magical bow. The arrows are made from magical wood. She's doing the classic archetypal leap off stone pose. She's just all things good, really. Obviously, going to be very powerful ranged. She has got a bit of a dagger, so she could probably take care of herself at close combat, but I wouldn't suspect that she can do huge amounts in close combat. As opposed to this hero, which is Imelda Braskov, who looks like she's the party's tank, really, let's be honest. Obviously, she's in full plate armor. She's got a double-handed sword. She looks like she's been business. She's either just a pure sort of fighter, or she's like maybe a kind of a paladin class. You can see she's got the rock on her shoulder there. Well, it's a giant eagle or a rock, one of the two. It's a huge bird. You look at the size of that bird's skull and that beak. That beak's as big as her head. That's one big bird that's come off of. The only thing that's really odd to me on this one is that she looks like she's got a bit of a flat head, which just looks weird. I don't know if that's... It doesn't look like it's a cropping thing, but it looks a bit odd to me. And once you see it, it's really hard to sort of get rid of. I don't know. But yeah, I think she's a tank, frontline fighter, definitely. Probably dishes it out, but probably takes it incredibly well as well. And then we get to Jelson Darrock, Vampire Hunter, I guess. He is, I think, the sort of character that's going to be medium good at everything. He has a hammer, he has stakes, he has a dagger or a short sword, he has a huge double-handed club on his back, he has a rifle with an underslung stake launcher, which makes me think that he's going to be all right at distance, and he's going to be all right at getting in the mix and being close combat. So I get the feeling that he's going to be the middle ground. He's going to be average at everything, but excel at not necessarily great stuff. But I'd expect him to have a few special abilities, especially against anything that classes as a vampire. But we'll have to wait and see. Next up, you've got Brutog Corpse Eater, the ogre. I would not like to get hit by this mace. Let's be fair. He's probably capable of swinging that and smashing you into smithereens. He also has what looks like a very tasty blade on his other fist as well. He is pure tank, pure. I'm not sure even tank, pure damage output. He's going to be the one that can just smash through reams and reams of your opponents. Not great at range at all. I don't expect he'll have any ranged attacks. He's probably to close combat what I expect qualthus to be to ranged. I think they'll be polar opposites in a way. Now, Glario venalton III. It's interesting. He, for me, reminds me of Janus Drake. This is Janus Drake, kind of the instigator of Blackstone Fortress, the leader of the party, if you like. The main character, the person that's got everybody else together. And then we go back to Glario venalton III. They're different. They're different characters, obviously, but they kind of evoke the same impression to me. He just looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks like supremely confident. Obviously, he's got a sort of like a flintlock pistol there, and he's got something that looks like a bit like a huge cavalry saber almost strapped across his back. Trying to work out, is that a saddle he's carrying on his shoulder? Don't really know, but that's kind of what it looks like, doesn't it? It looks a little bit like a leather shoulder pad. I'm presuming that's to protect his sword arm, but it does look a bit like a saddle to me. He looks great. He just looks like a mean MF, really, let's be honest. And then last but not least, the oddest one of the party, octrin glimscry. Yeah, octrin glimscry. Obviously a wizard of some description. You can see he's got at least 3 magical books on him. He's got a huge quarterstaff. Not your average Gandalf-esque wizard, though. He has this huge beard that looks like it could be a trip hazard if it's not animated in some way. He does have the archetypal wizard staff. And he has what I'm still trying to work out. I think that's a mask. I think that's a mask that hides his true identity. I think it may even be stapled to his head. But yeah, I get the feeling that is actually a mask. As wizards go, slightly unusual. I suspect he's going to be good at range damage. Might not be too bad as a support in some way or another. Obviously, time will tell when we start seeing the hero character cards. But not necessarily my first pick. I think my first pick, if we go back through the characters, has got to be Dagnai Holden stock. I think if I was playing the game, that's who I'd want to be. Just because I think he's cool. So, they're the 8 heroes. Shall we take a look at who they're up against? So first up, they have bat swarms to combat. I actually really like these. I expect there's more than 3 bases. You'll probably get maybe 6, I would think, two lots of each. But they're really cool. There's all these different sized bats. There's a little one there clinging to this crumbling pillar. These are kind of medium size, or they might even be the same size as this big guy down the bottom here. There's a real sort of baby rat just down there in this like plant root or plant stem. There's a little flying rat there. There's flying rats here. These are all kind of medium-sized flying bats here. So I think I just said rats. Flying bats over here. They're just great. They are just great. They're really evocative. I think they really set the tone for what's to come. They've got tattered wings. They've got vampire fangs. They probably can do some damage if they get enough of them on you, but they're probably reasonably easy to deal with. And I would think the similar is true of the corpse rats. And again, these are great looking stands. My comparison to these is I guess, scarabs from the Necrons that were not too far recently. And these have got much more character than these do. They've got bare skulls, they've got bare ribs, they've got a giant bare skulled rat down the bottom there with holes in his flesh, and there's one there that looks all emancipated, and yeah, they just look like they've died and someone's bringing them back for the specific purpose of just spreading fear, terror, and eating everything in their path, basically, because hey, that's what rats do. Great bases again. I expect you're probably going to get 6 of these, if not more. Gorslav the Gravekeeper. It's arguable as to whether this is my favourite sculpt or not. It is a fantastic sculpt. Let's not beat about the bush. There is so much to like about this. He has lost his hand, so he has a hook for a hand, which is pulling up a coffin lid, and a zombie is coming out of the ground, which is basically tells you everything you know about what he is all about. His other hand, to me, looks like it's on his belt, just there. Either that or that's somebody else's hand he carries around with him. You can see he's got his leg showing through the tear in the sort of the skirt or kilt, whatever you want to call it, he's wearing. He's got this really weird sort of embossed tattoo pattern here. He's losing a bit of flesh all over his arms and a bit in his chest. He's so emancipated you can see his ribs and collarbones through his skin. He's got this most amazing looking shovel. Look how cool that is. Not only can you think that, yeah, that's used for shoveling, but that's also used for decapitating. Let's be honest. First he chops your head off, then he buries you. He's got his eyes covered up by this really strange helmet piece he's wearing. And it just makes me wonder, does he sniff out his victims? Because he's got huge nostrils that are obviously uncovered. So he doesn't really have a nose. And he has all these sort of jagged teeth, but he has no eyes, and his ears look largely covered up as well. Therefore, it makes me think that his only senses really smell. And then it comes to the skulls and the spikes, and unless he's got some kind of backpack on, they look like they're coming out of his body, or they have been some way inserted into him. It would be really interesting to see what his back looks like. Overall, I will not do him justice when I paint him, but I'm going to enjoy painting him in nonetheless. And I hate painting skin, but this sort of pale green with a very yeah, I think maybe there may be a contrast paint out to make me get that effect. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll have to investigate. Deadwalker zombies. I've looked at these and I've looked at these, and they're slightly comical to me, and I don't know if I like them or not. But they are super detailed. They do look quite customizable. Um, there are 10 of them, and yeah, I don't know. They've all got spikes coming through them. You can see he's got a spike here. He's got a spike here. Spike there. There's a spike there. This one you can't see the spike, but rest assured, when we look at the next ones, you can see the spike actually comes through just behind his arm there. And yeah, you've got these lovely gravestones on these ones with the sort of the black roses and the candles. And there's candles over here, and it looks to me like they've been buried. They've been staked to try and keep them dead, but that hasn't worked. So in the end, they've been risen as zombies. I mean, he's even got a noose on him, so he was obviously hung before being buried and has been brought back. And I wonder if this is to say what his crimes were before he was buried. And like I say, there's 10 of them, so I'm wondering whether there's different ways to build them or whether these are the only ways. But because you can see this is the same sort of gravestone with the roses as the other one, but I think it's a different model. It might actually be the same model. Let's have a quick look. It does look similar, although it looks like perhaps the grave is cut off a bit because the other one goes back a bit. But you can see the stake comes through there. And so, okay, if you get there are 5 of the molds and they're the same, so be it. But they just look great. They do look great. You can paint them different ways. You've got 10 of them, 10 zombies. That makes a unit in AOS. I'm sure people will be using them in AOS, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Then we have another one of my absolute faves. This is Watch Captain Holgrim. The fact he's wearing an eye patch, and yet he's a skeleton, I think is great, amusing. He's got wisps of hair still, so who knows how long he's actually been dead. He's got a really battered halberd and a sword that's seen a lot of damage or decay. He's armored, but the armor's battered and beaten, and he's got tattered cloak and tattered leather bits, and you can see his bones, so you know he's clearly a skeleton that you can't see huge amounts, although I think you can see his leg there, and he's got a bit of sort of chain armor there, which is kind of reminiscent of the sort of the chain style armor you get on the Necrons, funny enough. Yeah, I just think he's great. He really is a good figure. Really is a good figure. And he's obviously in charge of the Orphan Watch. Again, I think I can't wax lyrically enough about these, I don't suppose. These are the best skeletons I've ever seen, hands down. We've gone from when I first got into the hobby, and this is a fair number of years ago, skeletons being plastic arms, legs, chest, and a head, and a spear and a shield probably, or perhaps a sword and a shield, or maybe a bow. But they were all very much fiddly to put together, but very, very skinny, probably easy to paint because you just painted them bone white, maybe with a bit of a shade. Although we didn't really have shades back then, we had oils. But these guys, they're just great. Look at the look on his face. It's just the attitude. He's just saying, "Come on in if you think you're hard enough. I'm already dead. I don't care." They've got they're same as their captain. They've got the torn sort of tunics. They've got the bit of chainmail. They've got beaten up plate mail. They've got beaten up shields. They've got sort of various swords. There's a sword there actually. The rest of them are spears. They've got nice detailing on their shields. Even the way the shields have been battered, it's still nice. Yeah, love them. And there's more of them. I mean, look at this guy. He's just. I think that's the same guy we're just looking at. But you've got the Standardbearer who's just sort of striking a pose. He's just like, I'll just stand here with the standard, which is falling apart. He's got a great sword there. He's got a fantastic sword there. Slightly different look on his face. They've got again this fantastic styling on their shields. One thing I will say about these, in Blackstone Fortress, I think that the most desirable miniatures in the Blackstone Fortress were the Traitor Guardsmen. And that's because you can't get them anywhere else. And in Warhammer 40k, there are people out there who like to play traitor guardsmen and regiments. So they take these sort of the Imperial Guard rules, and they just say, well, they're traitor guardsmen. But you actually had traitor guardsmen, and you could use them in your army. But you only got 10 in the box set, so getting hold of them would have been a nightmare. And they've never been re-released. Games Workshop, if you're listening, you should definitely re-release them as a box set. If these don't get re-released as a box set, I think these could go the same way. You get 10 of them and a commander, so you've easily got a unit there, but you're going to need more than that if you're going to be playing AOS with them, and so they're going to be in high demand. So it will be interesting to see if GW leave these as being purely in the main box set, or whether we actually see maybe an expansion with more of them in it, or whether we see a standalone for AOS that's actually got them in it at some point. And I think we'll get a standalone box of them. The big bad end of game boss, Raduka the Wolf. Vampire Ogre, I'm led to believe. A vampire ogre with Cossack stylings, a really weird hat, and 2 of the world's biggest wolves draped over his shoulders. Now, one thing I'm really hoping is that we get to see these in an expansion. The wolves, maybe you can have werewolves in expansion, I don't know, but these are actually models that we can see just how big they are, because that head is huge. The fact he's got claw marks in it and they're red is a bit odd, because it means he's freshly dead, I guess. But that's just the painter's choice. I'm taking it. But fantastic looking model. Again, he's carrying that sort of beaten sword look, which ties him into the rest of the army. But there's no mistaking that when you eventually have to fight him, he is not going to be a pushover. You're going to need to have every ounce of experience, items, whatever that you get along the way in your adventure leading up to him, to be able to take him on and actually put him away, put him down, stake him in the heart, chop off his head, chop off his body, burn him, whatever you have to do to make sure that he never comes back. Great miniature. Not my favourite miniature in all the set, but still fantastic. The Kosagi Night Guard. These are interesting. They're comical. They look like zombie ogres to me with huge halberds. I bet you they're a nightmare to get rid of in the game. I like the fact he's carrying a key and the rat's actually got one in his hand down there. I kind of like the way they're laughing at you. Not really much more to say, except for, again, they take that sort of Cossacky look, I think is the best way of describing it, and carry it forwards to sort of tie in with the rest of the big bad, basically. Torgilius the Chamberlain. Lots been said about him since he was previewed. Things like, is his candle burning the raven? I think not. I think he's actually holding that forwards. I think that's just, you can't tell depth from this picture. He's got a raven, he's got a rat, he's got a bat. He uses his creatures to spy on you, so I'm really interested to see how he mechanically works in the game. This down here, a lot of people have a bit of the opinion, oh, is it a fox, or is it a dog, or something like that? My honest opinion is that's a cat. That's got a very round face. It's got cat-like teeth, probably fangs. It's probably some sort of zombie vampire cat, but it's got cat pointy ears, and it's got a cat round face. I don't think it's a fox. I think the fox would have a longer pointy face, and dogs don't have ears like that. That to me is a cat with a big bushy tail that is probably slightly scabrous or leprous or whatever, plague ridden. But yeah, screams cat to me. Don't know what everyone else is talking about. The Verkos Bloodborne. Great motion in his. He just looks like he's so paused to just leap at you and just bite your throat whilst ramming his sword through your chest. And he's just poised to strike, and she is actually going for it. She's going hell for leather for you. Again, she's doing that classic leap off the rock, but at least you think, well, if she's coming at me and she's just leapt off that, I'm getting out of the way. Either that, or I hope I've got decent plate mail armor around my throat. That's for sure. So I think these are like vampire spawn, quite frankly, in my opinion. So these are being created by the big bad guy to do his bidding, and that they're basically going to attack you and try and tear you to pieces, turn you into a vampire. And last but not least, we've got Vogsgear. Now, the way that's written, it makes me think that that is actually its name, but it could just be its creature type. I don't know. Who knows what type of creature it is? It's this wonderful wolf, bat, rat hybrid thing that looks huge. I mean, you've got his little rat mate down there. You can kind of get an idea for how big he is. I have no idea how nasty he is going to be to deal with in the game. You are going to need to, I think, have everything go in your favour to get rid of him. And even then, I'm not sure he's going to stay down. He just looks awesome. Some mad failed experiment, or some, I don't know. It's like almost like a summoned vampire demon, isn't he? Fantastic looking. I bet you people convert him. The paint job on this, I don't know if this sort of ribbon in here is actually on the miniature and it's textured on the miniature. If so, the miniature is brilliantly cast, but I suspect that's whoever's painted it to try and make it look more fleshy. And if so, I take my hat off to them. They are far better painted than I ever will be, and they have done a fantastic job with this miniature. So those are the bad guys, and you get a lot of them. So shall we have a look at what you actually get in the box? And Games Workshop have been very kind and even given us a what's in the box. And here it is. You get 8 heroes. We've covered them all. The Dwarf is by far and away my favourite. I do love the Vampire Hunter. I like qualthus as well. Yeah, great set of different characters. Very, very diverse. Great mix. Kind of classic in a way, but kind of different as well. The Wizard obviously is a wizard, but he's nothing like what you'd expect from a Hero Quest type box set. If you get my stance. 42 hostiles. Count 42 hostiles. So 42 hostiles, 8 heroes. That's 50 miniatures are in the box. 50 miniatures are in the box. Plus 10 objective markers. Now, we don't know what the objective markers will do in the game. You didn't really have objective markers in Blackstone Fortress, so who knows what they will be doing. But they look cool. He looks great. He's pointing at the War Scroll books there, saying, look, you can even use these miniatures in AOS, which I'm sure people are going to want to do. You've got like a raven with keys there. That's probably for unlocking something. But you get 10 objective markers, and I suspect you'll be able to use them for like AOS objectives and things like that. So in total, there's actually 60 plastic miniature models to build. 60 of them. 8 heroes, 42 hostiles, 10 objective markers. That's a lot of plastic. You get counters and tokens, you get your rule books. It's interesting. I've seen someone else query whether these rule books are going to be pamphlet like we got in Blackstone Fortress, or sort of softback, or whether they're going to be like hardback. I think they're going to be pamphlet, but we'll see. I think they're going to be just like Blackstone Fortress, and they're going to be pamphlet, but who knows? 28 dice. Most of those are going to be the little white ones, some black ones, probably 2 sets of the combat dice. So 2 red, 2 blue, 2 white, I would think. 1 black dice, as they call it, which is a key dice for the turn order. All the cards you need to play. Boards, tiles, gateways, and lich gates. I presume the lich gates are where the bad guys come onto the maps. But again, the board tiles do look pretty good. And you can bet they're decent quality card, and they're going to enable you to form plenty of maps. And the expansion potential of this is going to be fantastic. Don't forget, for Blackstone Fortress, we had 5 or 6 expansions, I think. I missed out on the big one, which I'm eternally gutted about. They now go for a couple of £100 on eBay, and I'm not going to spend that much. But I found out too late that Blackstone Fortress was going out of print, and wasn't able to pick one up, and it's since disappeared off of Games Workshop's website, which is really sad. But it does mean that I'm much more interested in getting this, so I can play this. I've played Blackstone Fortress with my kids. They are 13 and 9, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. The 9-year-old got a little bit sort of distracted towards the end of each session, because the sessions can be reasonably long, but there is a way to save the sessions, and in fact we currently do have a saved session which we've got to go back to, and we've probably got to go back and complete the game so that we can open the secret envelope. Now, I've left mentioning the secret envelope till last because I'm curious and it's a little bit hard to see, and I haven't got a blown up version of this, as to whether that is a wolf on the front of the secret envelope. And if so, does that lead to there being those wolves in an expansion? Because if it does, I'll be all over that expansion like a rash. So let's talk price points, shall we? I've seen people think this might go for 125. I think they're dreaming. I think this is 150 to 175 pounds sterling worth of box. I think I would happily pay in the range of that. If it's more than 175, I don't think. If it went to 195, I would have to think really carefully and maybe just say, look, can I have this for my birthday in April if it's out by then? But 150 to 175, I would happily pay it. You've got to bear in mind there are 50 miniatures there. Even at a couple of quid a miniature, that's £100. And let's be honest, you usually pay a lot more than £2 for a Game Shop Workshop miniature. A lot more. I mean, 5 Melisai will cost you nearly 30 quid, for example. So that's £6 a miniature there. So you can make of that what you will. And they're also, some of them are quite large, and all of them are detailed, and there is quite a lot of variation in them. There's very few repetitions, even in the bad guys. And you get those objective markers as well, which I think are just bonus on top of the 50 character models that you already get. I'm excited, genuinely excited. I think I will pre-order it. I think it will sell out. They may well reprint it. I think they did with Blackstone Fortress. I think if you like this sort of thing, if you like board games, if you like dungeon delving games, which is basically what it is, which is basically running around, beating up the bad guys, completing quests, all the way through until you beat the end game and manage to open that wonderful secret envelope, then this is going to be worth every penny that Games Workshop charge for it, and I think they know that. So, fantastic. I'm excited. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Phil. This is Players in Exile. If you like what you see, please don't forget to subscribe or come join us on the Facebook channel or on Discord. You'll always be welcome there, and you can help us start the community. Thanks very much. Bye now.